In this video, we're going to focus on how we can give the Y scale a nice color lookalike like this here. We're going to highlight these labels and then make it almost like button like that, where you'll be able to click on. Well, in this case, we're not able to click. I have another video that shows you how to create a clickable version, but what we're going to do here is focus on the styling of it. We're going to grab the border colors and the background colors from the bars and match them here nicely. In this video, we'll answer one of the viewers' questions, which is how to place borders on the Y-axis labels in Chartjs. And this question came from one of my other videos about how to render images in the Chartjs labels plugin, which is a phenomenal plugin. Highly recommend you even to explore that one. But anyway, if we scroll down here, you will see the question came from Marina Joseph. So a special thank you to Marina for asking the question. This is what Marina asked. Hi, is it possible to add borders to the Y-axis labels in the bar chart, or to make the Y-axis labels look like a button? So let's start to play around with that. So the first thing what I want to do, of course, is to get the default code. Make sure you go to chartjs3.com, getting started, and then scroll down here. And you might notice this, for some reason I get this error here on Google Chrome, but on Firefox it works fine. Anyway, we're going to copy this chunk of code here. Once we copy that, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video that explains the JavaScript of the code. Anyway, we're going to paste that in here, cut this out, paste that in there, and then what I want to do is save this, refresh, and there we are, we have our bar chart. And then what I want to do is I want to convert this into a horizontal bar chart, because most likely, if you want to have buttons or something around here, probably it's related to the horizontal bar chart. So I'm going here, scroll down here, and then we're going to say here in the options, index axis, this will be equal the Y-axis, meaning that we swap the labels with the Y-axis here. And if I refresh, there you are. So now we have the first part here. So what I want to do now is starting to work on giving this a border color. And we can give a fixed border color, or we can get the border color of our bar chart. And that's probably what we're going to do. We're going to grab these colors here depending on the value, and of course the background color as well. So what we're going to do here now is go, let's see here. After the options, you can see it is the options bracket or curly braces. I put a comma here. I'm going to say plugins, and in this plugin here, or I'm going to create a plugin. And this plugin we will name, well, let's call this the Y scale button or something like that. You can give it anything you want. And then what I will do here is this must be identical with the constant here. So what I will say here, this will be the Y scale plugin block. Alright. And then in here I'll say equal, and this equal will be ID. Put in the Y scale button, and then I will say here the following. I'm going to make sure for the timing of drawing, and I want to make this before anything else. So I say here before draw, and then what I'll say here is chart, comma, arguments, comma, options. And now we are able to draw within the chart. Basically this here allows us to draw in the chart, and the timing here refers to when should we draw it on top, or something on top, or behind each other. In this case, it doesn't matter so much because there's a white space here. It would matter more if it would be in here, where we have like the tooltip, that we need to consider the tooltip is always on top, so it's always most visible, and etc, etc. There are so many different things we can consider on. However, I will show you later on what it really does. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to say constant, and then here constant, I'm going to break this into the following. Basically what I'm saying here, constant chart, but what I want to do here is what we call an object destructuring, because this here is an object and it contains many values. I want to destructure it so I can just select the matching one. So in our case, I want to get the CTX, which is the canvas itself. I want to get the scales because I need to get what we call the coordinates of these items here, because then we can make a border around it. Because what we need to know, of course, what would be how many pixels up, down, left, right, etc, etc, we need to know. So then, of course, for the scales, what I want to do is I want to break it down into X and Y. In our case, we only use the Y value. But if you would be in the X value or in the X scale here down, in that case, you will be probably using only this one instead of the Y. However, just a bonus here. Then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say chart area, And I'm not sure if I'm going to use this one, but I'll just put it in here. Basically, the chart area will indicate our positioning within the chart here. So we have these lines here. This is the top, this is left, bottom, and right. And what's for me really important, if you're on the y-axis, we're going to focus here on the left. This left here is important, but I'm not sure how essential it becomes because we might do it differently. But we want to know at least this borderline here or this line here. So everything beyond that would be in the chart area. Everything before that is basically the scale area or the y-axis area. And if you want to know for the down part, then of course you need to have here, we have the items here, which would be the bottom here. So what I want to do next is basically start to calculate. And now we're going to work with a bit more of the harder part. So we're going to say ctx dot save, meaning we're going to save everything here. All these variables and constants are being stored now. Now we can use them. What I'm going to say here is the following. We want to grab certain values, and to grab the values, I need to show you a few items. First of all, we're going to grab the y, because this is the y. So basically, what we're really saying here is into my chart, or basically with the C here, caps lock, because it is my chart. Then scales, and then dot y. And instead of this, I can just say now the y. So it saves us some time and shortens everything. Save this, refresh, open up the developer tab, and then now you can see here we get a lot of information. And what we really need here is basically in, let's see, where are we? We should be in the ticks, if I'm not mistaken, or the label size. I guess that's this one here. You get here the label size, and this is the one we need. And you can see here, if I get the item, label item, you can see every item in here. So that's beautiful, but this is just the basics, and what I really need is the following. I need to get here the label size, and the label size indicates here the height and the width. However, this is only for the first one here. So if you see here, the height for every item here is 14 pixels and plus basically. So you can see here, everyone, that might be correct because probably this is about 12 pixels with a padding up and down, approximately. So this is the one we need to calculate what we call the height. However, the height is based on the center here and then how it's being calculated. So we need to do a trick on that one. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, is I'm going to say here a for y dot, and let's see what is the location here. You can see here underscore label sizes with capital S and then dot height. So that's what we're going to get. So we say underscore label sizes dot height. And let's see here. Alright, so you can see it's height with S, so that's the plural version, and you can see all of these. And these, every one of them are identical, so that's fine. Next, what we have is the width. And the width, you can see here, the width depends. And the reason why it depends, basically depends here on the characters, and every character has a different structure. So we need to grab the width as well. So let's get the width. And the width would be exactly in the same location. Instead of height, we type in width with an S. So we're going to grab that as well. I'm going to put it in here. And then we say here, this will be width with an S. Alright. And do console log here. And grab this and do a console log for this as well. And later on, we can start to work more and more with this. I'll do a comment out here and probably can move this just down. That will make more sense. Save that. Refresh. Now you can see here we get the coordinates nicely. And of course it's being looped here. And the reason why it's being looped right now is because you can see here the animation. It's doing something, and after that, once it's fully loaded, it will eventually stop. So this is basically the full size of it. So that's the most important one we have here. We have now all of these. So now we have basically, we know the height here, we know the width here, but what we need to do now is to calculate as well the position. How do we get this position? Well, that's luckily easy because we have another command that's built in Chartjs that we can use here. And this works because right now we have the category axis here. This is what we call the Cartesian axis in Chartjs. So there's a category Cartesian. Basically this here is index 0, index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this has no values, but except for this specific index value that will can be converted into a pixel amount. So what I'm going to do here is basically the following. I'm going to, well, we have this already copied, and then what I'm going to say here is the following. I'm going to say here, we want to grab the Y, and then we say here, get pixel, this capital P, for this capital F, index, and in the index will be, of course, whatever we have here. So I'm going to say index 0 will indicate the pixel for index here on the Y scale. So if I save this, refresh, oh, get pixel for index. Alright, so let me see, or for, sorry, it's for tick. It's not for the index. It is basically the index because the tick is the index. So if I refresh here, we have the tick here, and now we also get the pixel for value. You can see here, it loops through, it's 52 pixels. So that will mean that this here, when this is exactly the center, is 52. So what we need to do later on is to push our text in the right position. So now we have those width and the height. And what I want to do now eventually is try to get a border around it. And we're very close to it because we know now also the position here. We need to push it a little bit up. But you might see here this little bit of space here. This is basically from the tick mark. Sadly enough, I cannot find yet the location of the tick mark, or at least how I can extract the pixel amount, but that's alright. What I'm going to do now is just an alternative way. We're going to just calculate the differences of those. So what we're going to do here is, well, let's start to draw something so you have a real clear view of how it works, so visualize representation. So I'm going to make a for loop here, and the reason I'm going to make a for loop, remember, we have 7 labels here. That will mean that we need to loop through every label here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these here and just put in step by step a few items in here, and you just see what we get so far, and from there on we can easily adjust and navigate. So what we're going to do here, let I equals 0, and then we say here, for now I would say I loop 7, what's it, loop 7, well 6 will be fine because there's only, remember index 0 it starts with, and then we have 6, but basically there's 7 items, and then we say here I++. And what I want to do now is I want to put in those, and then I'm going to say here, I'm going to draw them. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to give it a color. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say ctx.fill style. We're going to make a colored but full background color. So I'm going to say fill style, and this will be, let's say, blue again. I guess that would be the best because it's still easy to see. And then the next thing what I want to do is I want to say here ctx.fill rectangle. So I want to create now a rectangle, and the rectangle has an x0, y0, x1 and y1 value. And basically these here will indicate, the first one will be starting point. So you might say starting point is 0 because we just start here at the beginning. No, we need to figure out here officially where it is. But if you really look carefully, the position is tricky. And the reason why it's tricky is basically we need to figure out here this extra space here. So that we have to figure out. But let's say for now I'm going to make it a start at 0. And then later on you can see how it will look like. Next what I want to do is I want to figure out the height. And the height is basically in this get pixel for ticks. But the ticks will be in the center here. And you will see this now exactly. If I copy this, I'm going to put in here, but then I'm going to loop this with an I. And the reason I, because of this here, we iterate through this. Then next what I want to do is we have the height, which indicate, well, the height we don't need, this one is the width. So how many pixels to the right do we need to go? What's the width of this square block? So in this case, I'm just going to grab this. But remember, this is an array. So here, bracket, I. And once I did this, the next one will be almost similar, but now in the heights. We grab the heights. But here, also in iteration, we loop through them. And once we did that, then we'll say ctx.restore to undo anything else. To undo the code or colors, whatever we have in memory. Later on, we're going to play around with this more. So if I save this now, refresh, you can see here what's happening. Alright, so I guess here, 6 could be 7 here. So we have them all. Alright, so let's solve this 7, because we have a solid number, but we could just basically grab here, this length equals 7 here. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm just going to soft code this. We're going to grab here the Y label width. That's alright because this has 7 items in here. And I'm going to say here width.length. Doing that, save that, refresh. You can see nothing really happens, but we soft coded it. And that is number one. Alright, so now we have this here. You can see here what I told you, that the position here of the what is that? Where is that? This one here, the width, or sorry, it's the height. Sorry, the height is basically lining up here exactly in the center. And what we want to do is we want to push it up. So how do we push it up? Well, basically we have the width, or sorry, the height of the font size, because this here, the height is approximately 14 plus plus. So what we can do here is if we divide this by 2 and then push it up a little bit, you will see then it will jump up here. So how do we push it up? Remember here the corner up is 0.0 coordinates. If you go to the right side, it will increase in coordinates on the x-axis. If I go down, it will increase the coordinates on the y-axis. So meaning here, if it would go down, it would increase more. So I don't want to increase more, I want to go up. So that will mean I need to decrease the value. So to do this, what am I going to do? I'm going to calculate here basically this. Instead of the full width of this, which is 14 plus plus, this one, I'll just say divide by 2, meaning that we go half up, probably we'll get in the perfect position for the height. So if I say divide by 2, save this, refresh. Alright, something happened there, but I didn't know what happened more. Something happened what I didn't expect. Alright, width and heights. Let me just check again, save that. There we are. So if I have this, divide by 2, are we showing it? Alright. So what is happening now, it's doing a different positioning here. We can play around with that. That's not a real problem. So the reason why this happens now, it calculates the tick value instead of the pixel value. So what I need to do here is to first calculate this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say this will be the y0. So I say constant y0 equals. And what we're going to do is we say this, calculate that one first. If we do this, we should now get a number here. So if I save this and refresh, what we get here, alright, I is not a reference, alright, fair enough. That one will be slightly more tricky, alright, so what I need to do is here to do something. Alright, so I realize I'm doing it slightly wrong, and the reason why I'm going to explain to you. What I want to divide, I don't want to divide this value here. So that's a mistake of mine. What I was planning to divide was not the tick's position. I need to grab this value first. So how do we grab this value? So what I need to do here is minus, then here. And this is why it didn't work, of course, because we need to grab here the height of the label size, divide by 2. Basically, what I really want to do is I want to do 14.39 divide by 2, which will be 7.20 if I round it up nicely. So once I did that, in pixel amount, it will calculate here the pixel amount, and then it will deduct. So if I save this now, refresh, now we have the right coordinates. Beautiful. So this is basically what we had to do. Sorry about that. Now what we have, we are very close to it. But you can see here still, and let me just make this a bit more lighter, so light blue. Save that, refresh. You can see here we have an issue. And our issue is the font here is being cut off. And you can see here, it starts here at the very right side, over left side. And of course, we don't want this. We need to start here. And because we have here these tick lines, we need to calculate what is the difference here. Luckily for that, we can calculate this easily by calculating the differences. So how do we do that? We need to figure out here the right position or the left position. We can get the left, but I also saw there's another item that we can use, which is also perfect to do. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use here the following. So we can calculate eventually the difference here. So we're going to do this. I'm going to say here the following. Well, let's do in here. I'm going to comment this out. Okay, we can delete this. We don't need this anymore. But what I do want to show you is on the Y, and then I'm going to show you the Y right. So if I save this, refresh, click on this, we are now again on the Y scale setting, and then if you scroll down, you see here somewhere the right. Right would mean the starting point here of this line. So right is just before the pixel, and left in the chart area, which we had here, should be probably after the pixel, will be probably 1 pixel difference. We can check this. if I do here dot right, and then we do another one here, and what we're going to do here is basically the chart area. That will be the chart area dot left. So once I save that and refresh, oh, what happened? Chart area is not defined. Fair enough. Chart area. I'm certain that we have defined that one, but somehow it doesn't recognize it. So in that case, doesn't matter. We'll ignore this one for now. We don't need this basically because the reason why, if I refresh this, we have this one here, and all I want to show us that there's maybe 1 pixel difference here, but we can ignore that. What I want to do here eventually is to calculate what will be here this space. So how do we calculate that? Well, basically what we're going to do here is we're going to grab another item which is called the start pixel. So here we're going to say here y underscore start pixel, and if I save this, refresh, we get 2 items here, which is the 32. So it will calculate. So basically the pixel is at 32, and 32, I'm not referring to here or there, it's basically just here, the space between here. So if I can do this, what we're going to do is basically the 32 is the ending point of the label. So that will mean here I'm going to do the following. We say here y dot right minus y dot underscore pixel or start pixel. So we get here, and now we can see here there should be about approximately 6 pixels in difference here, or space here, or padding. And the reason why this happens is because of the tick marks here. Most likely the tick marks has like a 5 pixel padding or a 5 pixel line, and that will be calculated with 1 pixel extra margin, and that creates it. Anyway, that's alright, doesn't matter so much about the logic, but the goal here is basically is now how can we draw then the exact coordinates to get this ending here. So the ending here will be, well, we have to look at it, we need to calculate that with our starting point, because look at our starting point here. I realize you need to see this one here, this is not correct. So let's calculate here now our starting point, which is basically not anymore 0, but here we need to recalculate it. So how do we calculate our starting point? We're going to say here this, the y pixel, put in here. If I save this now, you will see here what is happening. It just moves here. Alright, so that is of course not really what I want. We're not done yet. So what we need to do here next is to go back. And to go back, what I need to do here, I'm going to do a deduction. So we are now on 32 pixels, and then we have to calculate how much. How much do we have to go back? Well, remember we had here the width, here this one here, the width of every item. So what we can do here is, first of all, let's calculate this and see what happens. If I do this, we can see here we have this, but we have an issue here. We need to go a bit more. This extra is basically the difference between these two here, the 6 pixels. So I'm going to give this a new name or constant, and this constant will be stored for us so we can use this. So what I will say here, I will say constant, and I will say y padding right, basically, which is the right padding here. Then I need to recalculate and consider as well. So I'm going to say this minus that, alright, and then when I want to do more, what we could do is I'm going to add it up in here. So I say here plus the 6 padding, or 6 pixel in padding. If I save this now, refresh, and there we are. So now we have the starting point correct. Let's do the ending point, because the ending point you can see is just reaching the font. And I don't want this, I want to have a little bit more space because it's a button. So what we need to do here is basically just look here on the width, which is the width here. We just say here plus, let's say 3 pixels. That should be more than sufficient. If I save this now, refresh, there we are. So now we have basically the item nicely. But we could do maybe some up and down some pixels if desired. Although if I look at it, I think it looks quite decent. So now we have this one. The next thing what I want to do, of course, the final item, I'm going to put in another item, which is the fill style. Well, this is not anymore the fill style. What I want to do here is the border line. So I want the border line around this. So what I will say here, this will be the stroke style, and this will be the stroke Am I correct? This should be the stroke rectangle, if I'm not mistaken. So if I save this, refresh. Alright, what happened here? Why are we having an unexpected constant on 103? Alright, we have this here. We are forgetting one of our curly braces. So save that, refresh, there we are. That was the only curly braces. And then we have here, let's see, fill. I realize it should not be fill, it should be, no, this should be stroke rectangle. Oh, maybe it's good. Let's make this blue. There you are. Alright, so that's right. It wasn't visible because it was the same color, of course. So we have now the different colors. Let's get now, and we're almost done here. Let's get now the matching red and the dark red border red color. So to do this, what I need to do here is basically we can go here, and what we're going to do here is basically we can say, well, let's do here chart. Let's see what we get. Get the chart here. We get this, and then what I want to do here is look for the data object, which is this one here. This is the data object, and in the data object we can get here the data set, and then specifically here the background color. So how do we get here? Pay attention, if I hover over this here and don't do anything, it should be data.dataset0, which is correct because we have only one data set here, and then background color. So I'm going to copy basically this. I'm going to say here data.dataset0 background color, and then here of course this will be eventually the iteration of the color because it's an array here. So I'm going to grab this, cut this out, replace our light blue with this, and save that, refresh. Alright, so now our background color is nicely aligned. But I want to do exactly the same for the border color, and basically just the same item here. Just copy this, replace this, do it here, and then we say here, instead of background color, this will be border color. Save that, refresh, and there we are. So now we have everything well designed. So what is very important here? So you might say here, well, what happened here? Because I did here before draw. So let me explain timing. Basically, it's what we call a layer. And then here, this is fine. But what would happen if I would do, for example, the background color first or after this? So this is also timing. This is basically, imagine it like Photoshop where you have a layer one on top of the other. So if I do this one and I'll say here this, instead of this color, I'll make it black. Or no, let me make this blue. That'll be fine. If I save this now, the blue of course is not a value because I need to put in a string value. Save that, refresh. You can see here now, I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but you can see the borderline becoming harder to see, or it's probably not even noticeable because it's on top of each other. So let's undo this, and this logic works the same. Let's put this back here. So we want to draw first the background color, and then the border color should be on top of it. But if I do here, after draw, it will draw first the text and afterwards the items. And this is fine here. You will see that this will work. But if I make this one now, let's see here, this one, a solid color, let's say blue, and if I save this, you see now the blue is on top of the font. You cannot see it anymore. Maybe if I do yellow, you might notice it even better. Save that, yellow. You can see you should expect the gray text here, but it's not because of timing. So timing is a very important factor here because you can see in the canvas what is being drawn first, and then everything else will be drawn on top of it. So that's why you have to reconsider always how you draw, and of course select your timing. You have them in different variations, but in our case, before draw is suitable for the scale. If I refresh here, there you are. So that shows it all. So if you want, of course, you say, well, hold on, how do I make this clickable? Well, I have another video for that one that will show you basically how to create a clickable X scale with links. But this is the same methodology for the Y scale, except with the different numbers depending on the position on the Y scale. So highly recommend to watch this one as well.